Welcome to the American Made and Paid Show, the home of free speech and independent thought.
The big story is freedom of speech is really in trouble. The far left knows that at any time they can call for a sponsor boycott of anyone they despise.
It is right here, right now, where you'll get your weekly dose of unfiltered truth.
It's non-negotiable. Pre-existing conditions will be protected. This president has said this as a candidate.
Insight.
Very few people I know could have handled it. We can never, ever let this happen to another president again.
And information that challenges the American way of life.
Welcome, everybody, to the American Made and Paid Show. Zach here, back with Professor Drag. Let's talk a little bit more about Democrat impeachment inquiries, right? Now, we've talked about, Mueller reports and all that in the past, how they are the violation of constitutional rights. But, the reason for that is because we've effectively been conditioned, in our day and age to basically give up our rights. So, ideally, I'm not really too sure what's going, but it sounds like the president is taunting impeachment, right? Kind of like wanting to leak specific transcripts and all that. And I'm not really sure what that is all about. So I wanted to hear your perspective on that. And it sounds like the House Speaker, come Tuesday, is actually going to be, or she already did, talk a little bit about a formal impeachment inquiry. So what are your thoughts on all of this?
Well, so the thing is, the first question becomes, why is there an impeachment? Basically, the impeachment is Donald Trump called the Ukrainian president for information about Joe Biden's kid working with a gas company in the Ukraine. So supposedly Joe Biden's kid, then that guy Bo Biden, the one who's dead, he was getting paid $600,000 a year. And I laugh because, come on, what and who is Bo Biden?
Is that his son? No.
Well, yeah, it's his son. But what does Bo Biden do for a living? What was he trained to do? Seriously, Bo Biden. Was he a military operator? Did he get a degree in solar energy or oil production? Seriously, he was, from what I understand, he was in the military.
Mm-hmm.
He was an officer. That's basically it. He's just a basic officer with no special training in anything, just a regular dude. Like he's the senator's son.
Yeah.
He's not a businessman. He's not any of that. He's just a military officer. So what was he doing sitting on the board of the Ukrainian, oil company, gas company? So again, they looked him up. And I believe they did so. Trump did so in the same fashion that they looked him up. How Obama basically.
Oh, you froze. You're gone.
Yeah. That was the mute button. Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
So Obama okayed the Clinton Foundation and the FBI and whoever else, CIA. It was the CIA, because CIA was involved because they got British spies and all this other stuff to help get junk on Trump. So in theory, Trump is now doing the same thing to investigate Bo Biden, who's dead. And the thing is like this. And I'm not saying this because I was a Trump supporter or whatever. But when a foreign person, and he was a vice president at the time, sets it up so that their kids benefit from him being a vice president, like, Bo Biden getting paid $600,000,
right?
By some Ukrainian gas company.
Yeah.
And also getting like another $500,000 from China to sit on some Chinese board over, satellite technology.
Yeah,
Something like that. I mean, because I'm going off the top of my head, so the things I remember is like I could be wrong. Anyway, that should be investigated. And why should it be investigated? And the thing is, Trump is in theory, Trump is withholding $400 million of military aid unless this guy says, hey, look, if you don't cooperate with us, we're not going to give you the $400 million so you can, quote unquote, protect yourself from Russia.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I mean, I honestly don't know what they do with the $400 million, but they're supposed to buy planes and tanks and stuff like that with that money because it's military aid. So now they're saying that's against the law because Joe Biden is a presidential candidate, and that's him asking for help for his political campaign.
Right.
So the question becomes, does Donald Trump have the right to investigate individuals who may or may not be doing things illegally by, with the abuse of power, using their seats and, you're not supposed, like the president, any senator, any mayor, they're not supposed to use their office to enrich themselves.
Right.
So when you are the mayor or the president, your job is to open up markets to the public, not just your family. You know what I mean? And that's basically what Trump would be investigating. So does he have the right to do that? And that's what this impeachment is going to be about. But again, this is a political stunt.
As you
No, because look, if Trump gets impeached, what happens? Nothing. The Senate is not going to confirm it. He will remain in office. He will be reelected. I mean, they did that to what's his name? Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
They knew Bill Clinton was not going to be removed, and because they didn't have the votes in the Senate. So it was just to, it was a political stunt so the Republicans can look good when they impeached him.
Right.
They couldn't impeach him on anything really except for lying to Congress.
Right.
So that's why he was impeached. He was impeached for lying to Congress. He wasn't impeached for sexually harassing his staff. He wasn't impeached for raping Juanita Broderick or anything like that while he was a governor.
Yeah, I know. Of course.
No, but it's the truth. He wasn't. That's the thing. Like, Republicans are so, I don't want to say shitty, but look, if they were honest to, I don't want to get into the Christian thing again, but again, when they say Republican in name only, it's not about being a Republican. It's when you sexually harass somebody, that should be an offense.
Right.
But because their faith is weak, they just went along with whatever progressives were saying. It's like, well, it's modern days. It's okay for a 60-something-year-old to get a blowjob from a 19-year-old, use their power. That's what happened. She was 19 at the time. And it's okay with all of those quote-unquote rhinos or chinos. And it's just, they had no moral. And that's what I kept saying. Like, even as an atheist, I knew that was wrong. I was like, no, you don't use your power like that. This isn't like, you're not the manager of a strip club. You are the president of the United States, like the first and only true Christian country. And, founded on Christian principles. And we talked about this yesterday about that guy, Amazing Grace dude, so what's his name?
Guy. Yeah.
No, what's his name? John Newt, I believe.
Yeah.
So, he was a Christian, and he did what he did way before the country was anyway, he's very interesting. So
right,
he became a Christian, blah 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 blah, and that Christianity, that type of Christianity, founded this country. And if you look at the history of all of the people, not just Thomas Jefferson or George Washington, but there was a lot of people involved in the founding of this country.
Right.
So long story short, to deny that this was founded on Christian principles is just a lie. And to say that Muslims were involved at the founding of this country, well, it's not a lie, but I'll tell you how. There was this lady, a princess, Princess P.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they were Muslims, like one of the first black Muslims, and they actually had white slaves.
Right.
And they're the ones that were selling the blacks to all over the world, these royal Muslim people. And so Princess P, I forgot the name of her tribe, but they were like the Shabu, whatever people in Africa, whatever. And actually, he was that white dude, the slave ship owner, the guy that wrote Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
He was one of her slaves. So he was literally a slave of this princess lady.
Sure.
And then, of course, obviously, after, because, in Europe, when you're mandated to join the military, it's just this weird thing. So like poor people, they're forced to join the military, or criminals are forced to join the military. So he joined the military. After the military, he became a slave of that Princess P. And then that's how he got involved in the slave trade. So obviously he was a crap person, but then he somehow, some way, he found God, and he wrote Amazing Grace. But anyway, so those. And that there was a lot of evangelicals, like I don't know what you call them, but the people who spread the Christianity.
Yeah,
there was a big movement that wasn't Catholic in the founding of this country, and it was hitting all those people who were coming to the New World. And so that's the basic history. So to understand the history of our country, you got to understand that guy, Newt,
right?
The guy who wrote Amazing Grace, because it perfectly illustrates what was happening at the time. And but everybody kind of forgot that history. So anyway, with that in mind, fast forward to Bill Clinton. Every Christian person, because we were not founded on a Catholic faith. The Catholics came around the time when the Italians came.
Right.
Because they brought it to this country. But in the founding of this country, it was truly, I don't even know what you call it. You said evangelical?
Evangelical, yeah.
But I don't think they were called evangelicals. I think but whoever spreads Jesus's word, through the Bible of King James, and I don't even know how it's done. But yeah, if they're evangelical, I guess that's what they're called. So the evangelicals actually founded this country.
Right.
They wrote the Constitution based on that. So in theory, you have a lot of quote unquote in name evangelicals in Congress.
Right.
Not one of them said anything about Clinton and all of the negative things he did. They only cared about the quote unquote lying. That was it. That's why he got impeached. And everything else should have. These are the men that should have done the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
Because, but it's the truth. And now the Me Too movement is being done by a bunch of devil worshipers. Seriously, like every progressive, they worship Satan in some form or another. It's just that we don't say it.
So how does this tie back to impeachment? Like with
well, we're getting into that. So that impeachment was literally a test of Christianity. So now today's impeachment against Trump becomes the exact same thing. This is a test of our faith. And I'll tell you why. Because here's the thing. Do we allow people to be corrupt? Or do we allow people to be persecuted for attempting to find out the truth?
Yeah.
And this is the thing. That's why this becomes a question.
Right.
Is it okay for Beau Biden to get the money that he did while his dad was pulling the invisible strings for his son and other family members to get paid directly, to which may or may not have hurt hundreds of thousands of people, both in China and in the Ukraine?
Yeah.
Seriously. How many in that little quote unquote skirmish when Russia was taken over certain parts of the Ukraine.
Right.
You know, how many lives was Beau Biden in charge of or responsible for their deaths?
Yeah.
Seriously. So should that be investigated? Yes or no? It's a yes or no question, and I believe it's a yes, because we have to know the truth. Even if we don't prosecute because he's obviously dead, but the reason why we prosecute isn't to punish.
Right.
We prosecute to prevent it from happening again.
Mm-hmm.
Will presidents be allowed to take advantage of their interns? Of course they can. Why? Because nobody was ever prosecuted for it.
Right.
That's the whole point of being a Christian. We don't prosecute to judge. We prosecute to stop it from happening again.
Right. Right. Okay.
And no one's even talking about this. Nobody cares about this because nobody understands what it means to be a Christian. They don't know the word of God. They don't. That's why this whole thing is happening. Oh, impeachment. Oh, and everybody's like, if you listen to what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
everybody believes this is about the 2020 election.
Right.
Trump wants to be impeached. No, Trump wants to be impeached because he wants to expose everybody to what is happening. He's correct in saying it is a witch hunt. Why is it a witch hunt?
Mm-hmm.
Because evil people are hunting down Christian people. This is what they do. Everybody's not, as long as you are a Christian in this country, you will be openly attacked. You cannot act out your religion.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever your faith is, like how you believe in Jesus, it's only one way. But, there's variations of it, whether it's Catholics or Pentecostal or Baptists or, what are those weird, not weirdos, the Mormons.
Right.
Even the Mormons, they're Christians, but a really weird type of Christianity. But they're going to attack you. It doesn't matter.
Uh-huh.
They're going to attack you not because of your political beliefs or anything else. They're going to attack you because you may pose a threat to their dominance in how they take over this country. And that's what this impeachment is about. What else could it be about? Is it really about the 2020 elections?
Mm-hmm.
No, because if Trump gets impeached, he's not going to be removed from office. And in 2020, not one Democrat is talking about real issues. They're not.
Right.
So they're going to lose because, again, Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, these people care about, things like the economy. They're not talking about the economy. They're talking about Russia, and it has no bearing on what these guys do. Are they talking about how Trump
Mm-hmm.
squashed the CARB initiative? The CARB is California Air Resources Board. So we say CARB for short. Are people talking about that? Trump is correct in killing that. Why? Because climate change isn't just a California issue. If the climate is, the climate changes every day, like 10, 20 times a day. This is how it works. It changes by the hour. In some locations, it changes every half hour. So climate change isn't a local California state issue. Stuff like that should be regulated in a national sense. Why? Because there's international car makers. And that's the president's job, is to regulate foreign trade. And if he's telling California, hey, look, stop, doing your own thing, making it harder for other states and all this other stuff, he has every right to do so. He really does. And people, states right, state, that's not a state right. Doing something in the name of climate change is ridiculous because, in theory, the climate is global.
Right.
God didn't say California controls the climate. He didn't say that. So in that theory, because if God really did give California that kind of power to control the climate, then I guess it's a state issue. But it's not like that. It's a global thing, and our people, as a democracy, wrote it down. The president regulates or has control over, dealing with foreign countries.
Right.
And that is so that's my point. They're not talking about things that are really important. They're not. They're talking about stupid impeachment over something that Joe Biden's son did illegally. I know it's illegal. Why? Because, for like my job, we can do certain things, and I can't, in theory, give certain things to the counselor because, that's my wife. You know what I mean? So, but there's ways around it. But, but long story short, this impeachment thing is nothing more than a political stunt. Trump is going to get elected, no problem, but no one's ever going to talk about the issues.
Right.
And we have to start focusing on these issues. We do. What are the real issues in 2020? And to me, the biggest issue is trying to rebuild the quote unquote Christian right. Yeah. Because in the old days, in the 80s, under Reagan, they used to call them like the Christian right or the Christian conservatives or whatever. But they were a real voting bloc. And, but then they chipped away at it. They chipped away at it. And now Christianity is looked upon as like if you have a mental illness, like narcissism. Seriously, like they would consider being religious as a form of narcissism because, why does God talk to you? Really? God talks to you? Why does he talk to you, Zach? Why you? Why not your neighbor? Why not the homeless guy? Why is he talking to you? You're a narcissist. That's why God talks to you, because you are a narcissist that believes God talks to you. And that's how they do it. And so the progressives, by making you feel like you're mentally ill or selfish for believing in God, they create all of this nonsense so they could hide the fact that they're breaking the law nakedly. Right. Unashamed. Do you know what I mean? Like before Adam and Eve spoke to the devil. Just, running around naked like it's the thing to do. And that's the problem we're facing right now in the 2020 elections. We got a bunch of goofs running around, saying a lot of silly things. And on the right, like, because I was watching a little bit of that Laura Chan and all these, people. Right. And I'm telling you, it's just nothing but echo chambers. And then they talk about God in a way that makes me think, Jesus, no wonder I was an atheist for so long. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it makes no sense what they're saying. Oh, you need to be closer to God's light. Why? Why would, like, if I didn't understand Romans, like, after speaking with you, I would honestly question these people who are claiming God's right, because here's things that are an issue that stems from this impeachment hearings. So we were talking about issues not covered. One of the issues not covered would be in somewhere in Wisconsin or like one of the swing states. Sure. There's a big deal when these parents are suing the school district for making, and I'm not kidding you, they're suing the school district somewhere in Wisconsin or Michigan or Ohio, somewhere, that they had a dress code where the women couldn't have mini skirts and their breasts popping out, too much cleavage. Yeah. And so now the parents are suing the school because the year before they let it slide, and it's not fair. So, and one of those girls put this in a tweet. I'm not kidding you. She said this in a tweet. She goes, I didn't know that wearing clothes was more important than having fun. That's so silly. But come on, think about it. Some high school kid literally wrote that she thought, getting dressed was not as important as having fun. Having fun is more important than wearing clothes. And I'm thinking, that's insane. Like, imagine that. in the midst of this whole Me Too movement,
Right.
you got girls literally thinking that it's better to walk around half naked if, in the name of fun. She literally texts that. And they're using that as part of the lawsuit because, you're infringing on these people's rights for free expression. It's First Amendment violation.
Right. Right.
But because these kids are minors, it doesn't apply. The parents can do this and that. But that's my point. What are the real issues? Nobody's talking about this. Yeah, I don't even know if I should pull it up somewhere on these news articles. But this is the thing. These are the issues people care about. Why? Because think about it. They sue this school district.
Mm-hmm.
How much money is going to be spent from the taxpayers on this lawsuit? Seriously. And if they lose, they're going to end up paying millions of dollars to these freaking brats who want to run around half naked, hoping that they're going to get boned down for no reason. And again, whose fault is it? I honestly believe it's the Chinos, because they should have had a handle on this a long time ago.
Right.
And it never should have been, this never should have been an issue, and they should have had it spelled out perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't. And then these deviant parents, oh God, these deviant parents are such a joke. And here's another thing, another issue that just happened. 2 6-year-olds were arrested by a cop for kicking and hitting the teacher.
Right.
Right. So, but it's not like a real police. I mean, it's a real police officer, but it's a police officer assigned to work at a school.
Mm-hmm.
For truancy or whatever. So the cop, and it was a black cop. He was a black, I want to say that it wasn't a white cop. So it was a black police officer arresting 2 kids. One was a girl, one was a boy, for beating up their teacher, like literally kicking and punching a teacher. Right. And, handcuffed him, took him downtown, did a mug shot, things like that. And they never intended to prosecute or anything. They just wanted to freak out those kids. I know it. They weren't going to put them in jail. They just did it just to teach the kid a lesson, because why? He knew that they weren't getting it at home. And what happened? As soon as the guardian, who is a grandmother with painted on eyebrows,
right?
God, if you see this lady, and it has nothing to do with her being morbidly obese or anything like that.
Yep.
But you can just tell she's doing it for the welfare money. You know what I mean? I don't know what she did to her, why the parents weren't involved in this kid's life, but I bet you money that they're in jail or something like that. Or maybe, they're suffering from fetal alcohol syndrome kids, so now the grandmother has to raise them. It wasn't from having a good life.
Yeah.
It was self-manufactured. And so now they're going to have to sue the police department. They're going to have to sue all of these things, da-da-da-da-da. But guess what? No one's going to address the fact that these 2 little brats were physically beating up a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. It's like, come on, those are real issues that need to be talked about. But guess what? No one's talking about it except to say, oh, the police are out of hand. Oh, this, oh, that. All this crazy stuff that in theory, Christians should have a handle on this. There should be some sort of pouring of support for this officer for doing his job and trying to get some kind of peace into these kids. Because look, when you're 6 years old and you're acting out that bad, when you're kicking and punching and biting teachers, I don't know if you're demon possessed at that young, but man, what kind of kid does something like that? Is like, seriously, I can't imagine any 6-year-old doing that.
Right.
That wasn't messed up in the head somehow, some way, like extremely abused, or maybe, because now I'm just using it as I wasn't open to it before, but man, this kid could have been demon possessed. You never know. Maybe it's so bad in this country at this point in time that, yeah, maybe people are open up for all this weird madness where like demons can run around and cause all these things, because it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Look at what's happening in the news. And that never would have happened in the 80s. You know, it never would have happened. But I'm telling you now, once we accepted that Bill Clinton can abuse and take advantage of these people when he got impeached, but it was a stunt because they knew he was never going to get impeached. And that's why this impeachment is just like the one that happened in the 90s. It's a political stunt. They know they won't be able to get rid of Trump, but, you know, they're hoping that they won't get Mike Pence elected in 2024.
Yeah.
If he's
Because when you impeach him, that's what ends up happening, is just it goes to the vice president. And the thing is, I would like to think that some of these people at least have enough verbiage about government and constitutional law to know that it's not easy to impeach someone. Like,
well, no, actually, technically, it's not that hard either. It's as long as the House Democrats control it, they can impeach him, but they can't remove him because that's up to the Senate to remove the president, and it's a political stunt. It just is. Yeah, crap. But anyway, I'm trying to move something.
worries.
Something's bugging me. But anyway, but this impeachment, it really does, like, I just don't see how this isn't tied to, well, I mean, because I don't know. I just, something is eerily wrong about this. This isn't just like, oh, this is, Trump is setting everybody up. You know, he's this, and that's like, that has nothing to do with Trump. Trump is trying to do his job. He's doing his thing. And everything he does, they challenge.
Mm-hmm.
They challenge Trump on immigration. They challenge Trump on, you know, obviously the EPA. They challenge Trump on every single aspect. They always take him to court. And, you know, these judges are like, well, you know, it seems okay to me. And they're just delaying everything. You know, sometimes Trump's wins, sometimes he loses, you know, but either way, that seems to be their MO. And now it's all about impeachment. And I don't know. And that's the thing. It's like, at some point, we, the people, need to do something. And when I say something, I mean, like, you know, I mean, because I don't want to sound like a broken record, but when are the Christian people going to get involved? Seriously, when are they going to get involved in the political world where it affects them at every level? Seriously, when are Christians going to demand that this nonsense at these schools, you know, when are they going to demand that the nonsense stops? When are they going to demand that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've heard from people that when you believe with what's happening with Christianity, right? It's also not our job to get involved. That's the thing. It's our job to spread the gospel, you know, but leadership is important. But here's the thing. If somebody truly were a Christian too, you really think that they would actually get elected? They would speak out against foreign aid and constitutional rights, against gay marriage? That's the thing. Like, if you think about it, that's what an ideal non-Chino would be, right? Talking out against gay marriage, right? Not supporting LGBT rights, because you don't have to agree with it. We'll not judge you, but I don't have to support it either. See, that's what I'm talking about. And someone like that probably never would get elected. Truthfully.
I think they would. I honestly believe they would. I believe you can get elected. I believe so. I believe you can win an election. And I'll tell you how. Because as a Christian person, you don't say, like, you never are against anything. We aren't. We aren't against anything. We wouldn't do it. So instead of saying, oh, you know, the Bible's against gay marriage, it's like, no, the Bible's against all sin. That's a sin, da-da-da-da-da. But here's the thing. The government has no right to be involved in this. So if you gay people can explain to me what rights are being denied by the government that's given to straight people that you guys ain't getting,
Right.
you tell me, because as a Christian, I am not going to discriminate against you.
Right.
So you make them list out all of their grievances against the government. That's how Christians should approach it, because it's the truth. Instead of talking bad about other people, just say, look, I'm a representative of the government, and we're not supposed to discriminate. And as a Christian person, I don't discriminate.
Right.
You tell me how I'm discriminating against you, and I'll make sure it stops. And I guarantee you, it's always going to be about taxes. The only thing that's different from being married and not married are the taxes.
Right.
And that's what it's all about. So if they want a tax break, I say, yeah, you know what? We'll change the tax code and, make it look like a married person. But you still ain't getting married in a church. And the government is going to stop marrying people, because it's not the government's job to make sure people get married. That is between God. God does that. That's the church's responsibility.
Well, the Bible also does say it needs to be recognized in a court of law, your marriage.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but City Hall is not the court of law.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not. So they have to get it. Well, I guess the justice of the peace is the justice.
Well, I mean, it's
but that's why. But that's crazy how the government has that power, because it's biblical. That's insane. It's a biblical right. So I'm thinking, man, that's so insane. I did not know that. So then, again, see, I got to know the Bible. I'm glad you're here to correct me. But yeah. I would go down. It's like, you know what? It's a two-pronged thing. And so in order for us to recognize it, first you got to go see some preacher. And then, so it says the Bible, like, what? How does marriage work in the Bible?
Yeah.
No, how does it work in the Bible?
Between a man and a woman.
No. But how does it work? Like, what's the steps?
No idea. I think a pastor would marry the two of you, like, and
no. But then you also said in accordance to the law.
Well, it's not accordance to the law. It just has to be recognized as a legitimate marriage in the eyes of the law. But I could be wrong about that. I'm gonna look that up, and we can talk further about that.
Well, see, but okay. So going back to my point. Well, either way. Because that is kind of weird, but that said, we still have to be able to speak to these people, whoever they may be, whether it's a Muslim or a gay person or anybody who celebrates the death culture and participates in death culture and takes away rights of other people.
Right.
Celebrates nepotism or corruption.
Yeah.
All of these people need to be challenged by Christian people. And I believe that has to be part of our job. And I believe a Christian politician can do it if they have a good background in their faith. Like, as long as you're solid in your faith, then I think you can do it.
Right.
And part of being solid is to stop condemning people, because that's the biggest thing. We're quick to condemn. Oh, gays are crappy and gay marriage is wrong and it's anti-biblical, blah, 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 blah. I think they're aware of it. Like, when you do something bad, you automatically know it's bad. You know what I mean? It's just how it works. Like when I do something, I know when I do something bad. Even before I do it, I know it's going to be bad. I've always known it. Every person knows what's bad, but they continue to do it because they get away with it for so long. You get away with doing bad things that you think, I'm not going to get caught, or it's not going to affect me. I'm not going to get AIDS. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to, because we were driving through, I'm not kidding you. We were driving down Hyde Street in San Francisco through the Tenderloin.
Yeah.
And the counselor is all like, is that lady smoking like crack? Is that a pipe in her hand? Yeah, she's at a bus stop. And then she goes, why is she smoking it so openly? And then I said, because the dude next to her has a needle stuck in his arm.
Yeah. That video of the guy literally just taking a dump in the BART station on top of a trash can while people were walking around him. Like he stood on top.
No, I have
But
not
people do
seen
that. It's San Francisco is a degenerate city. Just
No, but it's the truth because, well, I mean, you hate to say things, but the guy was so black. The counselor didn't notice that there was a dude passed out with the needle in his arm.
oh my gosh.
Because it was kind of like at night. It was like, because it gets dark now, so it was around about 9:15 at night. So
Right.
it was pretty dark, and the dude was hella dark. So you really have to have good eyes to see that dude. And I'm thinking that's why she feels safe, because there's a dude right next to her passed out with the needle.
Yeah.
So that's why she can do it. That's why that lady felt comfortable just smoking her crack or meth in that pipe of hers. But yeah, no, like, yeah, like if I would have seen that, I would have thrown. But then again, see, I shouldn't do that. But I probably would have. I would have thrown something at him. Just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Just throw some, pennies at him or something. But
Sure.
it's just, yeah, San Francisco is, yeah, it's just the worst. It's just, but like I said before, it's, I don't know, like I really wanted to leave because it's just not good. It's not a place to raise your kids and everything else. But then if Christians keep running away, then it's never going to change.
Right.
And, I'm not kidding you. And I'll say it here. Last night, some really heavy donors and people who can get a lot of money for political purposes, they were really talking to me seriously about trying to make the counselor mayor of San Francisco, and all this other stuff. And I'm thinking, yeah, I think she could do it. She could honestly win, because at one point she was, 3 years ago, she was the highest rated Asian politician in the city, outside of people who were elected. So, which is pretty good. And especially for somebody who never tried it before.
Right.
And I believe she can win. But, you got to do it in a way where you're not like, you just can't openly be Christian and stuff like that. But you can be openly fair. And as long as you're openly fair through Christian principles, I believe you can win. You just don't need to wear the cross on your chest and do what Mike Pence does. Because, again, I think Mike Pence, he may or may not be a Chino. But I believe there's a 60% chance he's a Chino and a 40% chance that he's a real Christian. But based on his policies and what he backs, I'm thinking, nah, he's Chino. But that said, he's open about his faith. Why? Because it goes well where he's from. Everybody's Christian. So it's easy to be a Christian when everybody's a Christian.
Right.
Hard to be a Christian when everybody's trying to kill you for being one.
Yeah,
and it's just the truth. How many, because when we spoke about this a little bit yesterday, and I'll bring it up, and they're not talking about this in the elections. They should, but they're not. They're talking about impeachment. But one of the biggest problems we have right now are the opening of Muslim schools to the people here. How many Muslim schools are here for the kids out here? A ton. There's a lot of Muslim schools that get money from the government for being a religious school. It is not private. I mean, they run it privately, but they get federal funds. That's not right. Trump should do something about it, but he isn't. Why? Yeah, I don't know. Because then that means Christian schools should be getting money. But where's all the Christian schools other than Catholic schools? And we all know what happens to you in Catholic schools. But it's the truth. They don't weed out their people. Why? Because I don't want to say it's a cult, but my God, if that might be the biggest cult on the planet. Because, all them Hail Marys, and it's just a cult.
Right.
It's just that there is no foundation for what these people do. There isn't, yet somehow, some way, these guys get away with murder. And all this stuff. Nobody's gone to prison for the things that they've done, and they admit to doing it, yet somehow, some way, they don't think they should be punished for it. That's not how you do things. Like, I don't know if this is true, but I believe, like, for the things I've done in the past, if I get punished for it through the courts of law because they say this and that, then I deserve it. And I'll go happily. But, as it may be, what I've done that is bad, technically it's considered self-defense and all this other stuff, but you still feel bad for it. I mean, because you do. So, but anyway, but I honestly believe this is another, it's just a weird thing. Like, this whole thing about impeachment, it really bothers me because this is a real attack on Christianity, but people don't see it as such because they don't understand it.
Right.
And why? Because attack Trump, ignore all the debauchery happening on in the schools at the local level. Muslims have all the power in the world in this country at this point in time in history. And that's something people really need to see.
Right.
At this point in time, who has control? Who has the power? It's the Muslims. They have total protection. And most of them are white. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, they got total control, total power. The schools are falling apart. You know, this 2 school districts are going to be sued. One to protect the kid's right to beat up a teacher, and the other to protect the girl's right to dress like a slut. And they're going to be punished. The school district, the taxpayers will be punished. And then the people who support debauchery and bad parenting, all the anti-Christian things that we don't support, they're going to get rich off of the taxpayers for it. Think about that. That's what this impeachment means to this country. And nobody sees it. Nobody sees it. It's insane. Who's going to get rewarded and who's going to be punished? If Trump gets punished, everyone's really going to be afraid to be a Christian. And if these people get rewarded for being, you know, Satan's kids, well, they're going to keep doing it. Right. Because they're going to be rewarded. And that's insane. And we're letting it happen. I mean, we're not letting it happen. We're speaking about it. But, you know, I mean, I don't know if the listeners are going to, you know, feel inspired, spread the word or whatever, because I think that's how it works. I mean, I honestly believe Christianity is multi-level marketing. It's the same principles. You got to spread the word. You tell 3 people, 5 people, 10 people, whatever. You got to let this message out. People who hear these things go and move forward. Seriously. And then hopefully people start, you know, say we got to do the Zach Hing, you know, 2024 election thing, whatever. But it's the truth. You can honestly do this. You know, as a true Christian person, because trust me, if you could bring it to me, I'm pretty sure you could bring it to other people as well. Not by being a pastor, you know, because pastors have their jobs. They went to school, they became doctors, and they know the Bible. That's different. How do you apply Christianity in real life? Well, they did it already once before. They wrote the Constitution based on their faith. They ended slavery based on their faith. They didn't go like, Jesus says slavery's bad. Right. Nobody did that. They honestly just wrote down things and how Christianity should apply to all people, including non-Christians. Right. That's how you run politics. The exact same thing. I'm telling you.
And how we came to it together, right? How you came to it, it should be the same approach for others.
Well, yeah, but I'm telling you, because you know this so well, and you can make non-believers believe. Imagine what you could do to, you know, like Arizona or whatever, all those godless people, wherever they're at. They'll follow and listen because it makes sense. It's the only logical conclusion a person can drive who wants to live. Right. That's the caveat. A lot of people are really entrenched in suicide, killing themselves, killing babies, killing people through road rage, killing people through sex. They're into that. That makes them feel good. So, you know, and that's the hard part. Like, I don't have a solution for that yet, but it's in the Bible somewhere. And that's what, you know, anyway, I'm rambling, but that's how it's defeated. When Christians honestly do the exact same thing what the Christians did when they ended slavery, when they wrote the Constitution. You know, we cannot deny our history. We can't let Catholic people pervert the Christian history.
Right.
which is also a part of the Christian faith. But it's the truth. I mean, come on. Like, honestly, I didn't even know that guy was a slave until I looked, because I was going to send you some stuff on him. And I was like, oh, I'm surprised you didn't know Amazing Grace was built on the guy that that owned a slave ship, was a captain of the slave ship thing. But then I was like, holy smokes, he was a slave himself.
Yeah.
No wonder why he hated black people, because his master was a Muslim, a black Muslim from Africa, who made him sell slaves, which is crazy. I always knew blacks sold other blacks. I just didn't know who. And so when you study that guy who wrote Amazing Grace a lot, you'll learn a lot. But it's the truth. Christianity ended slavery, without a doubt. It's just a reality. Mm-hmm. A war was fought over it. It was very political, but nobody at any point was shoving Jesus down everybody's throats.
Right.
It was done just out of principle, and the guy kept his, I'm not saying they kept it to themselves, but, they go pray with the pastors. Mm-hmm. Let the pastors speak, but when it's outside of the church, you're just loving yourself and you're loving your neighbors. That's all you're doing. And when you have that, you could write policies and be fair to everyone, even if they're not a Christian. And that's our job. Our job is to be fair and loving to everyone, regardless of who they are. Mm-hmm. And so we don't condemn. We just give them equal opportunities, and they'll come to whatever it is that you told me that made me believe in Jesus. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. That's how you do it. How you got me converted is how you run a city or a state or a country. It's just how it works. That's how you do it. But anyway, I know our time is up. But,
do you have any final thoughts? Because I do have to jump off in a little bit.
Yeah, this impeachment is a crap. That's my final thought.
Well, thank you for your